Welcome to Griffin's Gaming Guides. In this video we're going to show you how to acquire every Remnant 2 weapon in the Labyrinth. Now in the Labyrinth you're going to have one melee weapon, one long gun which is technically in Ward 13, however you can only access the area from the Labyrinth, and two handguns which are craftable over at Macabre once you've acquired the necessary materials. Now in order to access the Labyrinth you need to firstly take down a world boss in any of the three potential starting worlds, obviously Lasom, Nerud or Yesha. I do recommend going through Yesha first, reroll the campaign until you get that, as it does kind of help you get to the grips with the campaign and mechanics of Remnant 2 a lot easier. However, go through on whichever one, take down a world boss where you're then going to get given the strange object, interact with a world stone or a checkpoint depending on what you want to call it. You're then going to get pulled off to the Labyrinth. Now once you're in the Labyrinth, I do recommend that you go through and take down the Labyrinth Sentinel boss. Once doing so, you can then go through and continue the story and acquire the biome portal key, which will then allow you to travel to a new area. However, you are going to need the biome portal key in order to acquire the long gun. Once you've done so, you're also going to be well on your way to be able to craft one of the handguns, which you're going to need an item that the boss drops. It will also make you very familiar with the other areas that you're going to need to access in the Labyrinth in order to acquire all four weapons that it has on offer for you. So let's get straight into it with the melee weapon to start off with, the Labyrinth Staff, which can be accessed by going all the way around the Labyrinth to the fractured kind of glitching portal that's there. Just look over to your right, you're going to see a section of wall you can shoot, allowing you to go back to the fractured ingress checkpoint. It's a much easier starting point. So starting from the fractured ingress checkpoint, after you've opened up that little pathway, you then want to go around to your left, staying on the ground floor. Don't go up the stairs yet, as you don't need to. You're then going to need to go past the glitching portal, take down the enemies that are going to be waiting for you, and then take a running jump, kind of like a leap of faith, off the top left corner just up the stairs where a bridge will form. Now you will take a bit of a decent hit from this fall, so make sure that you're at least over halfway health, full health if you can obviously, but either way you are going to take a bit of a hit. Make your way forward where you then need to wait for the glitching portal to glitch a platform in front of you, which could take a couple of seconds or it could take near enough a minute, so just wait around until it's there. Once it does appear, you need to get over very quickly to solid ground, which will require two running jumps in order to be successful in making your way across. Drop down, where you're going to need to take down the Bastion Aberration. Link below the like button for that one. You're then going to be able to go to the back of the area and grab the Labyrinth Staff. Now attack-wise, the Labyrinth Staff kind of does a few decent swings. It also does a nice little back step where if you charge it up, you do kind of like a kick forward and then a nice spinning attack that can do a heavy amount of damage. Also, if you hold down the attack button, you can slam the staff into the ground and create a very, very small AoE, which is good for dealing with little small mobs. However, it's not really one that I recommend going for. The Labyrinth Staff, for me at least, is one more for the collectors than it is for the gamers.
This ain't good.
Next up we have the Chicago Typewriter long gun, which is the one that is actually found in Ward 13. However, you will need the biome portal key, which you get in the area after you've taken down the Labyrinth Sentinel. Once you've got the biome portal key, go back to the fractured ingress checkpoint. This time go up and around to your right, take down a special enemy, drop down, make your way over the left bridge where you're going to find a portal. You need to go behind the portal and then drop down through another portal which will be on the side of the cliff. Once you've done so, take out the enemies, go through the portal on your left. Once you're through that portal, you then need to go through the small kind of open passageway to your left and then mantle up the cliff on your left. A lot of left turns for this one. Now once you've mantled up, you then need to go through a crawl space and mantle up to the right where you can then jump across, go through and use the biome portal key on the door, allowing you through to the next area, which will actually be back on Earth in Ward 13. Go over to the right where you're going to find the Chicago Typewriter, which is essentially a Tommy gun, very high magazine and decent damage output, sitting on a crate. Now, incidentally, if you are going for the trophies and achievements in Remnant 2, or if you fancy the heaviest armour I believe the game has to offer, then make sure that you go into the crate just to the left of the Chicago Typewriter, where you're going to unlock the agenda and also acquire Leto's Mark II armour, which will make you basically belly flop rather than roll. Not one for me, however, if you want to be a tank, that's where you can get that. Now, as for the Chicago Typewriter, it's got a magazine of 80. The base damage isn't really that high, but again, it has a magazine of 80. So you don't really need an incredible amount of damage. It would be nice, and you will get it if you upgrade the weapon. But that large magazine allows you to lay down sustained fire. So when you're taking down mobs of lower level enemies, the kind of rolling crab things that are on Yesha, or the little enemies in either the Somme or the Rude, this thing will lay down a sustained amount of fire for an 80 round magazine, and to be fair, it's not really that much of a reload in order to get it done. However, you don't really have that many times you can reload, but again, it's got a magazine of 80, so what do you expect? They're not going to give you thousands of rounds. So for me, the Chicago Typewriter is definitely one that you want to pick up, especially if you're a fan of LMGs in a game like Remnant 2. Next up, you have an incredibly powerful handgun, the Cube Gun, which you can craft back at Ward 13 with Macabre. Once you've taken down the Labyrinth Sentinel boss, again, link below the like button for that one, where you're going to acquire something called a Conflux Prism. You also need to make sure that you've got 7 Illuminite Crystals and 1,000 scrap. Once you've got all 3 items, you then need to go over to Macabre, like I say, craft the Cube Gun, which is an incredibly powerful gun, especially if you become proficient in using it. Now, what the Cube Gun has is an infinite round magazine. The more you can land critical hits on the enemy, and I do believe it's critical, not just normal hits, as that doesn't always seem to work, but if you can land sustained critical hits on an enemy, the shots rebound straight back into your magazine. Now, given the fact that this thing's only got a magazine of 5 standard, but you can lay down easily 15-20 shots, providing your aim's good enough, and this thing has pretty much 0 recoil, so providing you're proficient at aiming, you shouldn't have that many issues, providing the enemies aren't dancing around too much. Now, the infinite ammo capacity and the sustained fire and all the rest of it is all lovely. However, this thing's party piece is it will make a cube around you, absorbing 500 points of damage against any projectile that's fired at you. And given the amount of times, especially somewhere like the Rude or Yesha to a degree, where enemies fire projectiles at you, this thing can be absolutely invaluable. It will absorb 500 damage, and if you press your action button again, it will then send the cube that's around you as a shield off, and depending on how much damage it's absorbed, it will then kind of pay it back. It will then give that damage that the shield has absorbed into damage kind of being converted onto the enemy, dealing an incredible amount of damage, especially against mobs of enemies. The Cube Gun, if you can get it, is definitely not one that you want to sleep on. I would upgrade this one as soon as you've got it, especially if you're struggling to find yourself a decent handgun. Get this one and you will have already found it. And finally, in the Labyrinth, we have Enigma, which is another handgun that you can find once you've acquired the Cipher Rod, 7 Luminite Crystals and 1,000 scrap. We'll get to how to acquire the Cipher Rod in a minute, but once you've got all 3 items, head over to Macabre, where you're going to be able to craft the Enigma back at Ward 13, and it is incredibly powerful. This might be one of the hardest hitting overall DPS handguns in Remnant 2. Now, in order to acquire the Cipher Rod, which is the main component that you need for the Enigma, you firstly need to go to the glitching portal, which you would have found as you make your way through the Labyrinth. Eventually, it will glitch to an area where it looks like there's nothing there. All you'll see is kind of like the white warp speed lines. That'll be the area that you want to go through. Go through the portal then. You're then going to land on a bridge, go forward, deal with all the enemies that spawn in. You're then going to be able to collect the Cipher Rod from the central column. Once you've got it, Ward 13 for you, and craft the Enigma. Now, what makes this thing so powerful is every time you fire a rod with your action skill, it will then basically transfer damage onto any nearby enemies within 10 meters. So make sure that you fire a rod into a few enemies, and you're basically going to be lighting them up like a Christmas tree. Given this thing's base damage as well, this Enigma handgun is, like I say, it will deal an incredible amount of damage at level 1. If you max this thing out, there's not going to be a lot that's going to be able to stand in your way, providing you're proficient at using it. It can be a very tricky gun to get to grips with. Once you do master it though, you're pretty much unstoppable. So that's where you can acquire all 4 weapons in the Labyrinth on Remnant 2. Which one's your favourite? Have you found any of these? Are you using any of these? Or have you upgraded any of these? If not, if you are planning on getting any and you need any further information or advice, let me know down in the comments and I'll get to you as soon as I can. If this video has helped you out though, do me a big favour, make sure you hit the like button, maybe even subscribe, who knows. Either way though, whichever you decide to do, you guys take care of yourselves, enjoy the rest of your week, and we do look forward to seeing you back here at Griffin's Gaming Guides.